Here I'm just going to go over time intelligence functions. Now, completing analysis over time is probably one of the largest pieces or largest types of analysis that you will do. And Power BI is perfectly set up to do this really effectively. What they have done with the DAX languages, they have built this entire suite of time intelligence type functions to make your life incredibly easy to go and do all of these calculations. Now, when I say time intelligence, it's things like month-to-date calculations, year-to-date calculations, calculating time periods, so comparing this year to last year, or this month to last month, this quarter to last quarter, all of those types of things. All of those things, once you understand how DAX works, are relatively simple to implement inside of Power BI. Now, first of all, the key thing to make time intelligence work is you need a good date table. So incorporating that into your model is incredibly important. If you don't have a good date table and you need one, then I would recommend going through the Ultimate Beginner's Guide to Power BI, because I go through how to create a date table and I give you some code to actually create that. I create one quite simply and easily, and it's a really good date table and enables you to do all of these time intelligence calculations. Okay, so now that we've gone through Calculate and how you change the context of a calculation with Calculate, time intelligence is a natural progression from that, because if you think about what we're trying to do, if we want to compare time periods, for example, or find out information, like month-to-date information, year-to-date information, etc., then we need to change the context of a calculation to do that. So let's run through a few examples to reiterate the point. So the first one I'm going to do is I'm going to go over how to calculate or how to compare time periods of information. So if we look at this table here, we're starting on the 1st of the 1st, 2016. We're looking at quantities sold for that particular day. Now, I may want to compare this result to results from, say, last month, last quarter, or last year. I'm going to show you now how you can actually do that really quickly. So let's create a new measure and let's call this quantity sold last year. Now, in a previous example, you may have seen that I used a function called same period last year to do this. In this case, I'm going to use a function called dates add, which is my favorite time intelligence function. The reason why that is because date add is incredibly flexible in terms of how easy to use to create these time comparison calculations. So if I go date add here, it's asking me for the dates, and all I've got to do is put in my dates column, and then all I've got to enter here or input here is the number of intervals I want to change the context for or to, and just to show you how to do that, I'm going to go number of intervals, I'm going to go -1, and then my interval is going to be year. So if I push enter here and I drag this inside my my table, you'll see here that I've got quantity sold last year, and then so you see that all of these results are different, and these results are different because we changed the context of the calculation via this filter function, or it's also a table function. We adjusted it by 1 year, so this date back 1 year. But what's awesome about this, check this out. Say I wanted to compare, instead of last year, I wanted to compare to, say, last month. So all I did was I copied and pasted that measure into another measure, and I'm going to call this quantity sold last month. And instead of -1 year, I'm going to put -1 month. Again, if I drag that in, now we're comparing to last month instead of last year. Now again, we are changing via calculate the context, the initial context of this calculation. Instead of calculating this total quantity sold inside the current context, which is 1st of January 2016, we are adjusting it by 1 month here. We are jumping back 1 month and counting up the total quantity sold for 1 month historically. And then again, if we wanted to very quickly look at, say, 2 quarters ago, again, I just copied and pasted the pattern, if you like, and I can change this to -2, and then I can change this to quarter. And then very quickly, hopefully you can see, you can create a number of these calculations really quickly. And if you name them in a descriptive way, then all of a sudden you've got this immense amount of analysis or time comparison work that you can do with the use of time intelligence functions inside of Calculate. Okay, so I'll quickly just show you month to date, quarter to date, and year to date as well, and you can see how relatively easy that is to implement too. So again, we've got to change the context of the calculation, obviously, and so the way we do that, let's go, let's call this quantity sold month to date, and if I go equals and I go calculate here, I'm going to go again. We want to calculate the total quantity sold, but we want to adjust it. We want to adjust the context in which it is calculated by finding dates month to date. And see, the time intelligence function is so ridiculously simple to understand because they've made it very, very easy for us. And then all we had to do was put in the date column. And then if I drag this in, you're going to start seeing that we have cumulative results here. So check that out. It accumulates over time, and then we get to the 1st of February, and then it starts from scratch again. And that's how you get dates, months, some month-to-date information. Now, if I copy this again, this is how quickly you can get to quarter to date. I'm just copying and pasting the pattern, and then all I'm doing is I'm changing this to dates quarter to date, and then I add that inside of our table there. And if we look down the table, you'll see that set accumulates all the way to the 1st of April. Which is exactly what we want. And so just to finalize things here, we'll do one last one to look at year to date. So I'm going to copy and paste, go quantity sold year to date, and then I just change that to that function, and then I'll drag it in again. So here we're running through very quickly, right? Think about how quickly we've been able to achieve this. We have very quickly been able to run a number of time intelligence type calculations. What I wanted to just reiterate with this video is just how important it is to understand Calculate. What is actually happening inside of Calculate with these time intelligence functions? Calculate is the key, and then through this list of DAX functions for time intelligence, you can very easily get to the time type results that you might be looking for. So I'll show you one last trick, which is really cool. So say for instance, we've got all the makings of some pretty cool analysis here. What if I want to compare the quantity sold year to date versus the quantity sold year to date but last year, so last year to date? So how would I actually do that? So first of all, let me just let's get this into a separate table so we can view it a bit easier. So if we look at this column here, this table here, we are trying to work out what is the quantity sold last year to date instead of year to date. So if you think about it, we need to again change the context of the calculation, because first of all, we are sitting here on the 1st of the 1st 2016, so we need to start this number as the 1st of the 1st 2015, but then we need to make sure that it is a cumulative total just like this number is here. So here's where we can combine some time intelligence functions to really get some great analysis. So I'll show you how easy it is though. So I'm just going to copy and paste this quantity sold year to date. I'm going to paste it into a new measure, and I'm going to put last year to date here. Now this pattern is going to stay the same, but this measure is going to change here. And guess what we're going to change it to? Quantity sold last year, this calculation that we just did. Because we want to calculate quantity sold last year exactly like this, but then we want to use dates year to date to run the cumulative total on it. And then I'm going to push enter, and then I'm going to place it into here. So now we can actually say we could turn this into a visual. Now we're comparing the quantity sold year to date to the quantity sold last year to date here, and it's a fantastic way that you can combine some of these pieces of analysis. And you can see here that there's actually not not a huge difference there. But cool thing about this as well is that when we wrap this inside of all the other context that we can place on this calculation, like as an example, if say we wanted to look at this via location, say we wanted to analyze it via state. So we can create a slicer out of state, and then say we wanted to, this calculation is going to, the formulas that go into this calculation are not going to change at all, but if we change the context, check out the result. It still is doing all these comparisons for us, but it's doing it for us in this new context, right? This new evaluation context. So we've gone through a number of examples there, and this is just an introduction in how these things start to all fit together. The key things there are time intelligence functions are incredibly efficient to use inside of Power BI. So the DAX function has all of these set up for us already, makes it really, really easy. Understanding calculate is the key to time intelligence, really having a good understanding of what calculate does. And then being able to extend all of these, then extending all of these via combining some of these patterns is also a really great way to create some top quality analysis.